When you talk about hating a lot of games, most people really don't want to hear anything that you have to say purely because they think you are quote unquote hating. But I feel like a lot of hating actually comes from the heart. You hate something because you wanted to like it or you loved it. Either it's annoying or you liked said thing, but when you actually went to consume it, it was the biggest piece of dog shit that you ever played. Obviously, for me specifically, a lot of video games is what give me that feeling. There's a difference between me hating on League of Legends, whereas I hated Dragon's Dogma 2, is because I wanted one of those things to be good, and when I actually played it and played it for like 70 plus hours, it wasn't all that fucking good. So that is my distinction between actual hating and the hate that I feel. And it's for things that I wanted to love and I just didn't. So I end up hating it as a result. There's a lot of things that I end up playing for hundreds and hundreds of hours only to eventually get to the point where it's like, I hated doing that. I hated doing it. Why did I do that to myself? And there's a lot of games like that. My number one example is Apex Legends, okay? Apex Legends is such a beast to me because I love playing that game. That game feels incredible to play. It has movement tech, it has speedy gunplay, the gunplay feels good overall. It has a lot of interesting characters, cool maps, decent to okay skins, stuff like that. But I cannot stand battle royales. I fucking hate battle royales, and that's the unfortunate part of it. The longer it went on, the more I played this game, the more I realized, fuck, this game sucks fucking ass. The matchmaking sucks. The monetization is fucking scrupulous. They charge you a quarter of rent to buy a fucking knife. Their battle passes fucking suck. Now they're charging you $20 a month if you want to partake in any of them. There's so many things to hate about this game, but for some reason, at least until recently, I just think that gameplay was just too good to me. There was something so addicting about how good it felt to play that game, but in the end, the hating won. I stopped playing. That is until they make another fucking Loba skin probably, so we'll see how that goes. The same could be said about Overwatch. It had the same type of feeling where I really enjoyed Overwatch 1. There was something very particular about how it felt and the fun you could get out of playing it, right? Getting good at the game was the fun part. It was only until they got to the part where they decided that let's ruin the game now by adding characters like Doomfist and Brigitte, characters that slowly ruined the dynamic of all the gameplay overall. Oh, what's that? You want to play Reinhardt? Well, good luck getting fucking chain CC'd to death because you can't play the fucking game.
No way! What is this?
I'm not one to be super fucking addicted to competitive games and stuff like that. The only game recently that I've had even a slight addiction to would be Deadlock, because I do not for the life of me give a shit about MOBAs. Okay, the whole point and click and hit fucking 5 abilities off cooldown in 30 to 40 minute games is fucking whatever. But who's the thought someone who likes Apex Legends, when you put that in an FPS format with a bunch of movement and wall bouncing and all this fucking cool ass nerd shit, that someone like me would like it. So just to prove that point that it's not just a competitive game thing, there is a game series that I actually really fucking love, but there is just things that they do. I can't help but have this love that's broiling in hate at the same time. It's Persona. I love the hell out of Persona games. Everything about those games, from the combat to the vibes to the music to the art style, I love everything about them And the one things that I just usually just don't give a shit about or makes me mad is the fucking stories and the fact that it always has to do with some high schoolers. And I get it, okay? I get it. It's not made for you, it's made for Japan. It's made for that large group of Japanese people who like playing as teenagers. Like, okay, I understand. The fact that like I have to deal with that if I want to play those games is something that infuriates me, but I'm still gonna play them. Sometimes the writing is just like not very good either. It has like it's basically a fucking anime game. Now you would think it's fucking silly to like play an anime game and then be mad when you actually play the game and you see the anime shit in it. I feel like the difference between my hating and the hating that a lot of the internet do is that I'm not fucking annoying about it, right? There's a lot of things that I instinctively hate on, but I keep it to myself. I don't make random tweets about like hot takes and have like fucking like 3 likes or some shit. I play those games, and if I happen to hate them at the same time, it'll just be an instinctive thought that I keep in the back of my mind. That's where I feel like you get to the territory of ethical hating, whereas there is a lot of people who have an opinion, whether it's positive or not, are being so fucking annoying about it. Another example is MMORPGs, massive multiplayer online role-playing games. Okay, now if I were to combine a lot of the top played games that I have in my total game time as a PC gamer, I would be hard pressed to say that it is probably all MMOs. Even to this day, I still cannot help but enjoy playing MMOs, and I don't know why. I don't like mindless grinding anymore. I don't want to have to log into a game to do quote-unquote dailies that take like 4 fucking hours only to get an incremental upgrade. There are games that I just cannot help but still like, even though I know the illusion will soon fade when I boot up that game and be like, I don't want to fucking do this shit anymore. There are several MMOs that I have played a fuck ton, and just, oh holy, I should get into this one. Okay, so one MMO that I really fucking like is Phantasy Star Online 2. Now this game was a Japanese MMO made by Sega, and it had a lot of like it's based on the Phantasy Star Online series, obviously. And what was really cool about it is that it was one of those first MMOs that I played that had this free-form action combat. It was very speedy and like light, right, with how quick you could, and you would be surprised to be like, wait, this is a fucking MMO that has this kind of response time in it. But that's probably because it was a lobby-based system where you would enter like a general lobby for the world, right? And then you would go up to a counter and pick a mission. And once you get into that mission, it's instance based on that, right? And there were obviously bigger instances with like, 15 plus people and stuff like that. But I'm pretty sure the initial mission lobbies were not that big. But even then, like, having that many people in a mission and the combat being that quick and that responsive, there was just something so unique about playing an MMO like that. Like, even now, I'm like, the memories are brewing of like every time I've done bosses like solo in that game, and they had these like, oh man, they had like some of the coolest fucking classes in the game. So you would pick a class, and it had a choice of like multiple weapons, right? And while you had up to 6 skills to use based on each weapon, you could still like mix and match, and you could have a class and a subclass, by the way, let me just mention that. And you could mix and match both of these things to make like so many variations of classes and types of playstyles. And then they had like very specific, unique, advanced classes that already were like, those classes used those same weapons, but they all had unique abilities and different actions and stuff. There was one called Luster, which is basically like this gun blade that you would use as both a gun and slash around like you had a giant sword. It was crazy. I could do I might even do a video on that game just to prove how fucking pissed off I am. When they came back and rebooted it under Phantasy Star Online New Genesis, that I was so mad that they somehow took a game that solid, instead of just updating the engine and kind of just repeating the content, right? Because you already had years of content to work with. They rebooted everything and somehow made the game so much more shit by just focusing on these like these were in the previous games. Let me not hide that fact that they had basically had gacha pulling, right? So if you wanted to get cosmetics and stuff like that, you needed to basically pull in a fucking gacha to get a chance at getting those items. And with this new entry, this new Genesis game, they focused 100% all their efforts on trying to fill up these gacha pulls every other week whenever they came out, just so I guess they can make more money out of the game. So you had the microtransaction shop of the game littered with fucking content of just new items of bullshit and stuff like that, whereas the actual content, the combat part of the game, the best part of it, because that's why I like the game, fucking desert wasteland. There was just barely any content in the game, and that is that's something that even to this day I still love that game. But right now I am probably the biggest hater of someone who likes that game still, because it was so easily and quickly ruined by just horrible decisions and just the worst kinds of mindsets that you could possibly have with a live service game like that. The other MMO that I have this a similar issue with, but it's a different thing. I don't even want to get into it. And it's Final Fantasy 14, okay? I won't even lie to you. I love this game, but purely because I love the story of the game, right? I even have this fucking, I'm looking at over here. I have this poster over here of the one expansion that I really really love, right? It has the most memorable story of any MMO I've ever played, especially because it has one of my favorite game villains in the game. But this MMO has a very particular issue, and it's such a unique issue that it has to do with me in particular, and I guess it's a weird issue to have because it's a problem that almost every MMO ends up having. For me personally, the reason why I have such a love-hate boner for this game is because it is a solved game. And when I say it's a solved game, I mean just obviously if you're a new player, this wouldn't pertain to you. But when I say solved game, I mean that it's at the point where even the developers' cycles have been predicted. It's so bad that to the point that they have been developing the game exactly the same for decades. So whenever there's new content that is gonna come out, whenever there's a new expansion or there's a new any patch or anything like that, you can go into that patch. If you've played the game for at least one expansion and paid attention to anything of the patch notes or how they release the game, you will very easily be able to predict every single new bit of content. There is nothing surprising. There is no more awe in terms of new things and stuff like that. And I get it, right? Obviously I'm willingly taking that information, and I guess maybe I'm slowly ruining it for myself, but I feel that shouldn't be an issue in the first place. I should not be able to be oh, what's in the new patch, and then I can just 100% guess almost everything that is going to be in the patch notes. That's when I feel it becomes a massive issue, is when you can go and develop new content, and before you even drop it, everyone can already predict the type of content that you made. So at some point after playing the game for 4,000 hours, I'll be honest, okay? Obviously at this point it's not surprising that I'm in this position. This section kind of just ends there, and I don't even remember what point I was trying to make, so I'll at least end it with this. I feel like that game is a bit more of a comfort food than it is a way to get new experiences, as you usually do when you play these MMORPGs. So it's been kind of reduced down to simple comfort food, because I know that no matter how much time has passed, if I go back to play that game, it will probably always stay the same. A perfect example is my quote-unquote hate for Dragon's Dogma 2, okay? That game, I played a lot of the first one, okay? The first game was a bit of a surprise. It's one of those times where you just kind of like scroll through Steam and you eventually find a game that's like on sale for like fucking $2 and a penny, and you're just like, hell yeah, fuck it, that game looks interesting. So I played a lot of that first game, and there was just something like so unique about it for being a fantasy game, and that's what drew me in initially. So it was something that like I don't usually get myself hyped for a game, but seeing Dragon's Dogma 2 was the one time that I got even a little bit hyped for something. When I barely even watch trailers and stuff like that. I like to wait for the game to come out, open that bitch, and just play and let whatever happens after that happen. When it came for the time for Dragon's Dogma 2 came out, obviously there was already a bunch of like drama for like Capcom pulling this fucking weird ass, let's put microtransactions in fucking single player games that literally have no benefit. They're pulling like fucking Ubisoft time saver bullshit kind of like stuff in their games. So I got a little bit worried, but I steeled my resolve. I'm a very mentally strong person when it comes to games and stuff like that. So I waited until I played the game, and for a while in the beginning, I played through like, you know, half the game, and I was still pretty much enjoying it. But when it came time to get closer to the end is when the hate started brewing. My mind started to be like, wait a minute, this is not as enjoyable as it was like 10 hours ago. Like, what happened? And slowly, what was love initially slowly starts to turn into hate for the things that you probably initially loved. And that's kind of what was the premise of that video that I made on Dragon's Dogma 2. Whereas it was a game that I really wanted to love, and I wanted to be better than its prequel game that I really enjoyed. And it just fucking wasn't. It just was not as good as I would have expected. It was a game that had so much potential, but probably got ruined to like time constraints, and like if they actually settled their problems with like performance issues and like gameplay mechanics and stuff like that, just not even being in the game that they were supposed to be. It was a sequel that had objectively less things than its game that it's supposed to be succeeding. It probably would be contender for a game of the year for me, just because of the idea of that type of RPG was so cool, and it had so many like neat ideas. It has some of the like best looking magic you'll ever see in a video game. It is crazy, but they dropped the ball for whatever reason, and now I have nothing but hate for that game. I would never recommend that game to anyone. Like, maybe the first game if you're okay with playing janky little PS3 games, but I will probably never recommend that second game to anyone, just because I would not dare to let them experience that kind of disappointment after being like so initially happy about what they were playing. Anyway, I basically turned into like a mini review of those games. I'm sorry. I'm going scriptless with this video just because it's genuine emotions that I feel. So I don't think there's any way I could properly write these down without it seeming completely like misinterpreted. So fuck it, we're doing it live. You know, I kind of have this love-hate relationship with the Monster Hunter series, but to be completely honest, I probably want to save that for like a completely separate video where I talk about my experience with the Monster Hunter games. So we'll you know what, we'll leave it at that. I'll make a separate video about Monster Hunter stuff, maybe closer to the release of Wilds, for example. But that's why I'm channeling this energy into a video of some sorts to maybe explain these feelings that I have, and maybe people resonate with those feelings. Maybe they feel the same. There's not really like a hate campaign on these games or anything like that. I'm way too lazy for that. I got actual good video games to play and not waste my time on. So think of it like this, okay? Hating is ethical, okay? Some things deserve to be hated on, but you don't have to be annoying about it. You can choose my approach and choose to hate ethically by being silent to yourself. Unless someone specifically asks you for it, there is no reason to dump the hateful opinions on the unsuspecting bystanders, okay? They don't deserve that. They just want to enjoy something, okay? And that's fine. They can enjoy whatever they want, you know? Let them enjoy it, but in your own mind, you can secretly be like, yeah, I'm a hater. I'm hating on you so hard right now. That's you know what? That's probably the goal of this video, is for me to tell you that hating is fine. Hating is cool. You should hate on things. And maybe out there you can turn your hating into something that is actually constructive. You can turn your hating into an actual discussion about why you hate something. That's what me and my buddy did over Final Fantasy 16. I obviously hated on that game. I watched a lot of it, and purely based on the story, I do not like that game, whereas it was the opposite for him. He quite enjoyed that game. We sat in a Discord call and we just talked about it. We talked about what we liked and or didn't like about the game's story. He talked about things that I hated, and I talked about things that I hated that he happened to enjoy. You can always make something very productive if you choose to. And that's why I am the biggest hater of my favorite games. One cannot truly hate unless there is love for said thing that you are hating on. Yeah, I feel like there's probably dozens of examples that I could choose from to help explain this position that I think I've put myself in. But that could easily be like a fucking 3-hour documentary about hating that no one will fucking watch, so I won't do that. I think I'll stop right here. All right, that's it. I think I'm done. My throat's fucking drier than the Sahara right now. So, and this is a very experimental type of video that I want to do. I want it to sound very yappy and like commentary-ish, but have the amount of editing that my other videos usually have. So we'll see how that goes. Right? Like and subscribe. I've never said that in like probably a year. It's been a long time since I've said that, and it's probably going to be the only time, because I don't think I ever want to say that again. See ya.